Recruiting process for me was always one of the most fun things that I got to do. When I first got into coaching, I hated it. I hated walking up to fields, not knowing anyone. I've always been a pretty social person, so it's kind of one of those things where I had to just come out of my shell a little bit. And I just came to the conclusion that I could never say anymore that I hated recruiting if I was going to be a coach, because it's the lifeblood of any program. You can be the best coach in the country. If you don't have the players, you're not going to be any good. You can be a great recruiter and just an average coach, and your program's going to be really good because it's all about getting the players. And again, like Coach Wade said, I'm going to talk from the big Division I level. Coach Reardon can speak from the NAIA level, and it might be a little different there. But when we were at KU, or any Big 12 or LSU or SEC, ACC, Big 12, Pac-12, you have to have the players. You can be the best coach in the country if you don't have great players. You're not going to be as good as the other schools in your conference. And how the recruiting process usually started for us was there were a select number of teams that we would watch. Imagine when you go to a tournament, how many teams you guys see and how many other players you guys see walking around the park. It's impossible for us to watch. I say excuse me for keep doing it. It was impossible for us to watch every team and every player. Physically impossible. We can't do it. 50 recruiting days between 3 coaches. I know that sounds like a lot. If you use 10 in Colorado, if you use 3 at Ronald McDonald, you use 2 or 3 here, they run out really quick. I know that sounds bad. Why isn't KU? Why isn't Iowa State? Why aren't they at all Missouri? Why aren't they at all these little tournaments that we go to? That counts as a day. And that's one less day that we have to go watch a national tournament, to go watch at Colorado, to go to Team New Jersey. So again, it goes down to what the program's recruiting philosophy is or was. When I was at KU, we like to go to smaller tournaments. I'm not sure what they do now, but when I was at LSU, that is another thing we like to do. If you're just another shirt back there in Colorado, you don't really stand out. So we kind of like to go to practices and things like that. But different programs have completely different philosophies. And that's something that your coach can find out through the recruiting process of, hey, can you come to a practice? Well, we don't really come to practice. Or Coach Wade can call someone and say, hey, can you guys come out to a practice? This kid's really interested. Sure, it's right down the road. We can make it out to that. So when I was at KU, we would fly to Texas or California to watch lessons if we really wanted it. We would stalk somebody. I know that sounds bad, but that's what we called it. If you've ever talked to anyone that I ever recruited, they would know I was interested in them because we literally would stalk them 24 hours a day. If they were playing a game, we were there half an hour early. We would stay and talk to the coaches afterwards. Coach Wade has seen that. I was just joking with Darcy that I helped them load equipment into their truck at 1 a.m. in Colorado one time, me and one of our other assistants. And we ended up signing 3 kids off that were on the field that night, or maybe a 4th that was playing on another team too. I don't know. But it's building those relationships, and you guys are very fortunate to have Coach Wade and Darcy. They have a ton of relationships all over the country, and how I kind of got to know Coach Wade was when I first got to Kansas, we had to do a lot of mending fences. I don't know if that's the right term for it, but there wasn't a lot of local recruiting done. And I met Coach Wade. He had some kids that were interested in Kansas. They didn't really fit what we were looking for at the time. But we became pretty good friends. Fortunately, I got to know Darcy more than Rob, which was always better. But, I always told him, I said, at some point, what we want and what you have is going to meet. It's not this year, and it might not be next year, but somewhere down the road. And sure enough, it did eventually, and we ended up signing the players, but we had the relationship all ready to go. And I guess my end point of that long story is recruiting is all about relationships and all about who you know, who's seeing you play, and this is a great life lesson for you guys. It's all about who you know, who you see play, how you treat other people, how you treat other coaches. When I recruited, I was looking for the top 1% of players. We did the math for our kids one time. It's the upper 1.5% of all softball players play at the Division 12, SEC, or Pac-12 level. So you have to be at a pretty high level to play them. So when I watched 100 kids play, I was probably only watching 2 or 3 of them. But I was watching everybody else on the field because I had a lot of friends in the coaching business. And if I knew someone was looking for a certain year, a certain position, if I saw them play, hey, that's great. Someone would ask me, hey, are you going to watch the Zephyrs play later? Yeah. Can you watch so-and-so for me? Sure. Let me know how they did. I can do that easily. Kept me awake most of the time because 12, 14-hour days at the field when it's 110 degrees. You know, it gets we get a little whitewashed sometimes, so it keeps us interested. But you know, outside of that, you know, we would watch from the minute we got to the field to the minute we left. We are always on, watching. How many of you guys ever see a coach recruit without sunglasses on? Anybody? Why do you think we wear sunglasses all the time? Who can tell me?
Can't see what you're looking at.
Can't see where I'm looking. Okay? If it's between games and I'm just standing there, you can pretty much guarantee wherever I'm looking, I'm not looking. I'm looking over here, watching how you treat your parents. How you treat your parents is how you're going to treat your coach. Bottom line. If you walk over after a game and throw your bag to your parents, not a good idea to do in front of the coaches. If you're walking through, have you guys ever been to Colorado before? If you're walking through there, tearing out after the game, blessing someone out on the phone, talking about how much your coach sucks, should have played more, should have played a different position, guess what you're going to do after a game when I'm your coach? You're going to be doing the exact same. And trust me, I get it. I know it goes on. Coaches know it goes on. It's part of the business. But not everybody needs to know your business. After the game, wait till you get in the car to get on the phone. It's a little helpful reminder. Nothing wrong with after the game shooting a text off to your parents, but don't be walking around in your Ugg boots and your fashion glasses talking on the phone. Okay? Just a small little piece of advice. Your parents can thank me for that later. But, you know, how you guys treat your parents is a big deal, because again, how you treat them is how you're going to treat us. Parents, we're always watching you guys too. We figure out who the kids we're recruiting. We get to know their parents. We'll watch you during the game. You're in the bleachers, cussing out the coaches, or wondering. I mean, again, you're going to wonder, why did we bunt? Why did that stuff happen? But if it's they hate my daughter, we're switching teams at the end of the year, we're always listening and always watching everything. In between innings, you make it out, come back, slam your helmet, throw your bat, and brush your teammates off. Not a good. We're always watching. We want to see how you fail. Once we decide if the kid's good enough, they're good enough. We don't need to see you hit a home run every game. Right, once you're over that line and the coach knows you're good enough, it's okay. Like when we offered kids, we kind of want them to do bad at the games. We don't want any other coaches to think they were good. Like, no, we already want you. We don't want anyone else to know. Completely joking. But we already knew you were good enough. We offered you. We want you, but we want to see how you fail. After you strike out, what happens? You're not going to get a hit every time. We want to know how you fail. Did you learn from it? You know, after the game, if your parents come up, hey, good game, you're pushing them away, crying all the time, that's how you're going to act when you get to school too. We can only take the information we get and make our decisions based on it as coaches. So whatever we see and whatever we hear, that's what we have to base it on. So if you're like, well, that wasn't really me, that's all I got to see. You know, if you're in an organization like the Zephyrs where coaches will watch you multiple times, that's a good thing, because you might not have had your best stuff that day. If you're in other organizations, or if you get a coach out to watch you one time, that might be the only time they get to watch you. So you always need to play like, there might be a coach here watching me today. That might be the only time they see me. You know, if a coach isn't there, or if you don't see them, doesn't mean they're not there. I've seen coaches hide out big time. Like, you would never know they were there. We were a little opposite. I'd always like to stand right behind home plate so you knew we were there. That's just our philosophy. Again, not that it was right, it worked for us, so we did it. As far as communicating with coaches, letting them know when your games are, form emails are great on that. Just, hey, here are my games. Trust me, I know you're sending that to everyone in the country. Okay? Let's say your dream school is Iowa State. You're going to email, I always butcher her name, Coach Gemeinhart. Yes. Don't send her the same email you're sending KU, Texas Tech, Missouri. Trust me, as coaches, we know you're emailing every school in the country. We get it. But if you have 5 schools that you really want to go to, send a personal email. If you know they had a good game last week, put something in there about that. If you guys want to go to KU, put something in there about basketball, the new facility. If you want to go to Missouri, being in the SEC, personalize it for the school. Now, you don't have to do that for all of your emails to colleges, but if you have a select few that you want to go to, I would highly recommend that. And send them to all the coaches. When I was at KU, we ended up signing a kid who had committed to another school but got dropped. And I read every email I got, read it as in to see, okay, who do you play for? Is this a personal email? Delete. Never even read most. So, but in the first paragraph she put, my dad went to KU, and when my brother was born, there was a piece of the national championship floor in the hospital. That kid ended up coming to KU and starting for us. Because she put that in the first line of the email, okay, and then I read the rest. You got to hook them with something, just like anything else. Hook them quick, then get to the nuts and bolts of everything. But put something in that first thing of, this is why you should look at me. I'm a huge Iowa State fan. I'm a huge Missouri fan. Whatever you want to do, just to get them interested. And then they'll read the rest. YouTube videos for us were great. If I can just click on a link and watch you, that's perfect. That will get me to the field. If some coaches don't believe in video, I honestly don't know what Rob's opinion is, so I'm maybe going against what he says. But a video will get us to the field. Some coaches don't like it because then you won't come watch them play. But for us, it was a great tool. And if we can see that video, and it doesn't have to be a long video, 30 seconds, it's probably too short, but 2 minutes, hitting, fielding, that'll get us to the field. And again, your goal as a parent, as a player, and as a coach is what? Get him seen. Get us to the field. That's his number one job, is to get the coaches to the field, and then it's up to you guys and the parents of making yourself marketable. So again, personalize the emails. So if it's the day before your Colorado, just send the schedule out because we don't have time to do anything like that. We know what's going on there. But again, if you got some schools that you're interested in, send out a personal email. Another thing is find someone in the recruiting process that will be honest with you. There's a lot of people who won't be able to tell you you can play at LSU, you can play at Kansas, you can play at Missouri. But again, that's the top 1%. And trust me, I used to call it that I would crush dreams. And I would hate it. And it was the worst part. So I'm a pretty nice guy. And I would hate having to tell kids no and tell parents no. You get to know in this process, but you have to be honest. You just have to. And if you have someone telling you, yeah, you can play at that level, and you're a junior, and you haven't heard from any of those schools, what's probably the truth? You probably should need to start looking somewhere else. And again, great softball at all levels. And Coach Reed will talk more about the NAI level, but like Coach Wade said, I've coached at junior college, NAI, all levels of Division I. You have just as much fun at any of those schools as you do at the schools. Maybe the facilities aren't as nice, you're not flying all over the country, but in 20 years you won't remember that anyway. You'll just remember somebody threw you in an ice machine in Florida one time, and you guys had fun at the hotel. You won't care who you played, who you were playing. You'll just remember your teammates and how much fun you had. And so that was important as I was getting further in the recruiting business, was to just be honest with people. I got a phone call one time from a girl's parents, and I answered it, which I didn't really want to, but I kind of accidentally did because she was really wanting to come to KU, and she'd come to camp, and she just wasn't good enough. But great family, great kid. Problem was we were recruiting one of her best friends, who was very good, and had offered her, and answered the phone. The dad was just like, "Can you just be honest with me?" And I said, "I'm just going to do it, and here you go." And I said, "She's probably not good enough to play at this level. So if she comes to here, it's not going to be much money, and she's probably never going to play." And he's like, "Thank you so much." She started every game at a school in the Southland Conference last year. I actually just looked that up this morning to make sure I had that story right. She started every game at a Southland Conference school last year and probably had a great time. Her friend ended up committing to KU and is there now. So, it's just one of those, find someone that'll be honest. It might hurt initially, but it's going to help you in the long run because you want to go somewhere where you're going to have fun and where you're going to play. If you want to go to a bigger school and, roll the dice that maybe you won't play, that's up to you and parents, obviously, too, to understand what you really want to do. If you want to go to a smaller school and play all the time, that's great, too. You'll have just as much fun there. But again, I think you have to figure out what's best for you in your college experience. I can talk all day. You got more for question and answer.
Yeah, make sure I'm sure after that you have some questions, so make sure you have them together. I'm going to introduce this next gentleman. I've known him for several years, from him recruiting our players to actually getting to coach against him, having the distinct pleasure of coaching against him because I coached in the same conference that he did for 2 years. And they are one of the elite NAIA teams in this part of the country, if not all of the country. I mean, they're preseason ranked 16 this year. Their coaching staff was the National Fast Pitch Coaching Staff of the year for three years. Past two for sure was it? Yeah, 3 years. They're a great program. They have a great school up there in Fayette, Missouri. They were conference champions 4 years in a row, but 8 total. Correct?
I haven't been there that long. Yeah.
So they're the dominant program in this area at small four-year colleges like in the NAIA. Gene is probably the most tireless recruiter I've ever met. This gentleman will